All right, let's talk about one of nutrition's biggest supposed villains, sugar. But what if I told you the problem isn't really the sugar molecule itself? What if it's all about how our bodies handle it? We're going to follow that molecule and find out exactly what's going on.
I mean, we hear it all the time, right? Sugar is the enemy. It's this big bad wolf hiding in all our favorite foods and drinks, just waiting to ruin our health. But is that really the whole story? You know the labels it gets: toxic, empty calories, a one-way ticket to gaining weight, and linked to all sorts of health issues. And yeah, with how much sugar is packed into our modern diets, it's pretty easy to see why we're all a bit on edge about it. Okay, but here's a twist for you. The basic fundamental building blocks of the white sugar you put in your coffee, they are the exact same molecules your body gets from kale, from an apple, or from whole grains. So, if they're made of the same stuff, what's the real difference? The truth is, this isn't some simple battle between good foods and evil foods. It's a biological journey. To really get what's going on with sugar, we need to trace its path from the moment it enters your mouth all the way into your cells. So let's do that.
First things first, to understand the difference between the sugar you get from a soda versus the sugar from, say, a sweet potato, we need to be clear on what we mean by sugar. Because biologically, it all comes down to carbohydrates. And carbs, well, they basically come in two flavors. On one side, you've got your simple carbs. These are the sugars. Think of them as tiny individual Lego blocks, like glucose and fructose. But on the other side, you have complex carbs, or starches. These are like massive, branching Lego creations, long chains made of hundreds of those little glucose blocks all linked together. And that difference in structure, it changes everything. Those little simple sugars are so small, they hit your bloodstream almost instantly. That's what causes that classic energy spike and, the inevitable crash. But those big, complex carb chains, your body has to break them down link by link, which gives you a much slower, steadier, more sustained release of energy. So, you've just eaten something, a piece of cake, a banana, doesn't matter. What happens next? Let's trace that molecule's journey right through your digestive system. Okay, so digestion starts a little in the mouth, moves to the stomach, but the real party happens in the small intestine. This is where enzymes act like tiny molecular scissors, and they start snipping all digestible carbs, whether it's from a candy bar or a bowl of oatmeal, down into those simple little sugars like glucose and fructose. And this is so key. Your body has to break everything down into these basic units before they can get into your bloodstream. And once those molecules are in the blood, they make a beeline for the liver. The liver is kind of like the central processing hub. It takes any other sugars, like fructose, and converts them into one main molecule. And that molecule is glucose. So no matter what you ate, the main fuel, the energy currency floating around your body, is glucose. All right, so now we've got all this glucose floating around in our blood. It's the fuel that your entire body runs on. But where does it actually go? And how does your body decide what to do with it? This part is so important to get. Your body does not know or care where that glucose molecule came from. There isn't some kind of special glucose police that directs the good glucose from kale to your brain and sends the bad glucose from soda to be stored as fat. To your body, a molecule of glucose is just a molecule of glucose. Period. So what does your body do with all this fuel? Well, it can't use it all at once, right? So the first thing it does is store it. Your body takes these glucose molecules and bundles them up into something called glycogen. The best way to think about your glycogen stores is like your body's personal rechargeable gas tanks. Now, the first, smaller gas tank is your liver. It can hold about 100 grams of glycogen. This is sort of the emergency reserve, ready to be sent out to your whole body, especially your brain, whenever it needs a quick hit of energy. But the main fuel depots? Oh, that's your muscles. Your muscles can store a way bigger amount, somewhere around 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, depending on how much muscle you have. This is a much bigger gas tank, but it's pretty much reserved just for your muscles' own use. Okay, so this brings us to the most crucial question of all. What happens when these gas tanks, the one in your liver and the bigger ones in your muscles, are already full? Where does all that extra glucose from your meal go then? Well, your body has a very strict priority list, a pecking order. First, it's going to use whatever glucose it needs for immediate energy right now. Second, it's going to work on topping off those glycogen gas tanks in the liver and muscles. But once those tanks are completely full, there's only one option left for the overflow. The body takes that excess glucose and converts it into fat for long-term storage.
So you see, the problem isn't really the glucose molecule itself. It's the world we live in. We have such easy access to a massive amount of calories and refined sugars that, for many of us, our energy tanks are basically full all the time. This means that spillover into fat storage isn't just a rare thing. It's happening constantly. But there is really good news. There is one single activity that acts like a powerful reset button for this entire system. It completely changes the whole equation. And that, my friends, is the game changer: exercise.
Exercise is just incredible for managing sugar, and here's why. First, it literally forces your muscles to burn that stored glycogen for fuel, which empties your gas tanks and makes room for more carbs. Second, over time, training actually builds bigger gas tanks, increasing your storage capacity. Third, it makes your muscles way more sensitive to insulin, so they get better at pulling sugar out of your blood. And finally, and this is just amazing, exercising muscles can absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream, no insulin needed.
This leads to a fantastic practical tip. One of the absolute best times to have a sugary treat, if you're going to, is right after a tough workout. Why? Because your muscles' gas tanks are empty and they are screaming for fuel. Any sugar you eat then will be prioritized to go directly to your muscles to refill those glycogen stores instead of being stored as fat. So, as you can see, the story of sugar isn't about some evil villain molecule. It's really a story of supply, demand, and timing. Now that you understand the whole system, the question isn't if you should have a sweet treat, but when you might strategically enjoy it.